Any Lakers trade story you read centers on one key question. Do you want D'Angelo Russell? Meanwhile, the Chargers appear to be leaning towards people who know Jim Harbaugh for their front office vacancies. And the NFL is pulling apart the Rams coaching staff like a plate of ribs. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. So it is January 27, 2024. I am back in St. Loser misery, trying to make money in Joe Biden's America. What do you say we just lighten the mood for a moment, talk LA sports? If you like being in the know about LA, please clack the like button. Please clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist, and by all means comment, because I try to get back to every one of you guys. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a look at the scoreboard. James Harden drops 22 points, 13 assists. Not bad. Clippers 127, Toronto 107. Meanwhile, the Kings, holy crap, they've lost 13 of their last 15 games. Kevin Fiala's goal is literally the only bright spot in a 5-1 ass-kicking up in Colorado. Meanwhile today, I gotta tell you, it's still a pretty good schedule. The Lakers are at Golden State at 5:30 with the burning question, can the Lakers finally edge over 500 again? Meanwhile, the Clippers are at Boston at 4, and UCLA is gonna be at USC at 5. Boogie Ellis of the Trojans is a game-time decision. He has a hamstring issue. What do you say we go to the news? Yahoo Sports is reporting that the Lakers lead amongst all the suitors for Atlanta guard DeJounte Murray. Yes, it's literally like a scene out of Gone with the Wind. There is DeJounte Murray dressed as Scarlett O'Hara, just surrounded by all these suitors trying to woo him while he twirls his parasol and just has a dream of a nicer life ahead. Now, the Lakers have allegedly offered the Hawks a first-round pick in 2029, a swap of picks, and D'Angelo Russell. Atlanta, as you might guess, wanted a different player. And I can tell you something, The Athletic has reported that the Lakers previously tried the same trade and failed then too. This is something that you're going to be hearing about in a lot of weeks, much in the upcoming weeks going to the NBA trade deadline. The Lakers offered D'Angelo Russell, and the other team is like, no. Straight and simple. The Lakers, though, do believe that Russell's trade value will continue to rise with his scoring. As you know, he has been scoring a lot over the last month. Now, Murray actually does not shoot that well from the outside. So in a sense, you're sitting there saying to yourself, do we really want to make that trade? Well, I can tell you that Murray is definitely considered a better defender. And about Russell's scoring stretch, he's averaging 27.4 points per game, but that's only in January. Russell is known to be a streaky shooter, so I think a lot of these other teams are onto it. And by the way, as you start to hear more about Russell's name being bandied about, the scribes are saying that Russell is more likely to be dealt than not to, but most of the targets that are linked to the Lakers would actually be downgrades. Sources with the Lakers tell The Athletic that Malcolm Brogdon would be a downgrade. Tyus Jones, Spencer Dinwiddie, all three of them downgrades compared to D'Angelo Russell. See, here's the Lakers' dilemma. You could argue that guard isn't even really the problem. A nice 3-and-D guy to replace Taurean Prince would be a better idea to trade for. But you're probably not going to get a really good 3-and-D guy for D'Angelo Russell and one first-round pick at the end of the decade. And two, if you do trade D'Angelo Russell for said elite 3-and-D guy, you've opened up a hole at point guard, a scoring guard. That's why you're starting to read about stories with the Lakers maybe going to try to get a third team involved in a deal. So there is basically a lot of questions going about with the Lakers into the trade deadline. Now, a lot of these rumors, I'm telling you, don't even remotely buy them. Remember, when the Lakers made a ton of trades at the deadline last year, virtually none of those names were included in any of the trade rumors. It was all about Kyrie Irving. Remember that? And then all of a sudden they get guys, Jared Vanderbilt. They did trade for D'Angelo Russell. They did trade for Rui Hachimura. Nobody predicted those three were coming to LA. Nobody. So there are questions to be answered. I'm not necessarily sure that the scribes that are online are going to give you them. Cam Reddish will also be out for at least 2 weeks with a right ankle sprain. After 2 weeks, the Lakers are going to send him to a doctor to get evaluated again. Reddish turned the ankle on Tuesday versus the Clippers. He was injured, by the way, by James Harden. There is a videotape. Harden has this habit, and it's actually not legal. You're not supposed to do it. Whenever he goes up for a jump shot, he will kick out a leg, basically trying to draw a foul. He did kick out his leg. He landed his foot on Reddish's foot, and Reddish turned his ankle. Reddish has already missed one game. That was against Chicago on Thursday. There are 2 GM candidates with the Chargers who have an existing relationship with new head coach Jim Harbaugh. And both of them, by the way, have received second interviews for the Bolts vacant GM gig. One would be Baltimore Director of Player Personnel, Joe Ortiz. The other is Giants assistant GM, Brandon Brown. The Athletic is also reporting that they believe that Jesse Minter, Michigan's defensive coordinator, obviously worked under Jim Harbaugh, will make the jump to the NFL. Michigan will not be sending their offensive coordinator to the NFL because the offensive coordinator has been promoted to the Wolverines head coach. So you're sitting there going, well, okay, we know the defensive coordinator and possibly the GM, one or both, have a working relationship with Harbaugh that predates Harbaugh coming to the Bolts. What would theoretically happen for offensive coordinator? And by the way, what I'm giving you is, with the exception of the second interview for the GM candidates, what I'm basically suggesting, it's not hardcore speculation. It's possible, but it's not etched in stone. How's this for a potential offensive coordinator for the Bolts? Former Stanford coach David Shaw worked under Harbaugh with the Cardinal. They both believe in the same type of offensive philosophies. Former Chargers coach Brandon Staley is scheduled to meet with Miami about their vacant defensive coordinator position. Staley also, by the way, has an interview with Green Bay for defensive coordinator. Now, I recognize that a lot of Charger fans are going to find that a little bit stunning, that somebody who is so bad as a head coach would get these interviews like that. But I would ask you to consider a couple of things. One, the Dolphins, for example, they have Jalen Ramsey, who played under Staley in LA with the Rams. Two, Staley learned under Vic Fangio, who Miami just got rid of as a defensive coordinator. Is it possible that Miami is saying to themselves, can Staley create an updated defensive scheme that Vic Fangio could not? Is it worth a chance just to talk to the guy and see what works out? Fangio's principles, just updated. By the way, also, football history is littered with coordinators who were terrible head coaches, right? Remember Wade Phillips by any chance? By the way, speaking of former Chargers coaches, Kellen Moore also has a chance to interview with Tampa Bay to be their offensive coordinator. Boy, this working overnight stuff really kind of gets you after a while, I must say. Meanwhile, with the Rams, New England is bringing in Rams tight end coach Nick Caley to talk turkey about their offensive coordinator job. Caley coached in New England for 8 years before coming to the Rams just last year. By the way, the Rams also are very much aware that they're losing a lot of personnel to other teams. 3 teams, including the Rams, have asked the Dallas Cowboys if they can speak with their defensive line coach, Aiden Durda, for the defensive coordinator job. This is according to ESPN. Pro Football Focus says offensive lineman Kevin Dotson is the most important free agent that the Rams have this offseason. Now, if you remember, they acquired him for next to nothing. They literally just swapped 2 picks back and forth with Pittsburgh and took Dotson in the midst of that pick swap. They love him, they being the Rams. And by the way, they being Pro Football Focus, they love them some Kevin Dotson. They thought that Dotson was the best interior lineman in the NFL last year. MLB.com has listed its top 100 prospects. The vaunted Dodgers minor league farm system has only two in the top 100. Matter of fact, somebody who you would figure would be an elite prospect has plummeted from 14 from last year out of the top 100 entirely. That would be catcher Diego Cartaya, who I saw playing Tulsa last year. Fell completely off the charts. Dalton Rushing, a catcher, leads all Dodger prospects on MLB.com's list at 75. Right-handed pitcher Nick Frasso, 80th. Now, if you're wondering, the Cubs lead all of Major League Baseball with 7 prospects in the top 100. But I got to tell you, it's still frankly shocking. For how many years have we been told that the Dodgers minor league farm system is just eternally elite? Creme de la creme every single year. You don't even have to think about it. There are the Dodgers right there, just dominating with their farm system. They're not even a top 10 farm system with MajorLeagueBaseball.com right now. Is that an alarm bell that should be ringing? The roster overhaul with Angel City FC is continuing, particularly, by the way, when it comes to acquiring young players. They have sent intra-league transfer funds to the Orlando Pride for Rookie of the Year candidate Messiah Bright. Now, Bright scored 7 goals last year with Orlando. She will be competing with Sydney Leroux for time at center forward. Leroux was injured last year, so this is either the backup plan or the potential healthier replacement. And if she is not the replacement, is it possible that Angel City might consider playing 2 forwards next to each other? Both Leroux and Bright. I don't know. I simply don't have the time to watch women's soccer, frankly. LAFC General Manager John Thorrington said Dennis Bouanga's late arrival to training camp is not an indicator of heightened tension between the player and club. If you recall, there were reports about a month and a half ago suggesting Bouanga wanted to return to Europe. Thorrington said that the Golden Boot winner was simply sick, quote, but Dennis is coming back, and I think we expected that all along. Dennis is motivated and excited to come back and help us win more trophies, unquote, which is a very nice sentiment until you remember that LAFC didn't win trophies last year, guys. Just saying. Not trying to slam you guys too hard, but you guys were 0 for 3 in terms of winning trophies. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Does D'Angelo Russell have legit trade value, or will he ever have legit trade value ever again? Do you believe that the Chargers' #1 priority in terms of the front office and the coaching staff is whatever Jim Harbaugh says? And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single morning, even after I work a graveyard shift. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Corte El Queso production. Take care.